Now the first part of inserting the knob side is actually extremely easy. The first thing you need to do is take the knob side of your busk, line it up in the exact same place that you had lined up the loop side of your busk on the other side. So what I had done, I had measured the placement of it, and I measured that it was 2 centimeters from the top and 2 centimeters from the bottom, and it was just centered right in there. So I'm not actually going to sew the busk in right now. All I'm going to do is put these two panel pieces together and sew that right down this stitching line here, extending right to the top and to the bottom, completely closed. And I'm going to do that 2 or 3 times because, once again, the busk holds a lot of tension and I want this part of the corset to be extremely strong.
Remember, my first 2 panels, Fashion Panel 1 and Lining Panel 1, are prepared exactly the same way, so they're identical but mirror images of one another. You don't have to do this, I just like it this way. Even if you don't do it this way, at least have couture flat-lined to both your fashion and lining panels, because the busk is, after all, a bone, and you want it surrounded by a tight weave fabric so that it will be less likely to eventually poke through from continued stress. Right now I'm sewing the 2 first panels right sides together at the stitching line, and I'm lock stitching it. That is, stitching it multiple times using different stitch lengths each time, so that it's very difficult to pull apart.
Okay, so as you can see, it is now triple stitched along the stitching line. No, I don't think triple stitching is overkill. Now all I need to do is press this open and then press it so that it's right side out. And then I'm going to attach these panels to the rest of the corset, and then once I'm done that, I will be back and show you how to do the rest of inserting the knob side of the busk.
So here is half my corset with the waist tape enclosed and fashion and lining layers stitched together. Remember, I had marked where the top and the bottom of the busk were supposed to go on the inside. Since I can't see those lines anymore, what I had done was just stuck pins at those points to use as my guide. Slip the knob side of the busk between the fashion and lining panels and secure it at the top and the bottom points with those pins. Now push the busk as close as possible to the edge. Wherever the knobs make a bump in the fabric, mark that point with your marker or chalk. Take your awl and start gently working it through the fabric at the first bump. Or, if you don't have an awl, use something pointy like a knitting needle or ice pick. Stretch a hole in the fabric that is just slightly smaller than the knob, and then use your fingernails to work the knob through the fabric. This part is fiddly and it's not an exact science. Just be gentle and have patience. It's good practice to make one hole at a time and press the knob through each time, as opposed to making all your holes at once and then trying to get all the knobs through. One reason for this is that you don't want to have made all your holes and then find that you've accidentally misaligned a hole with its knob. At that point, the hole is permanent and it would be very difficult to cover up, especially since it's right at the front of the corset. Another reason is that some fabrics, depending on the weave, can be harder to work with than others. I find satin to be a little temperamental in that whenever I try to stretch a hole in it, the threads don't stay apart for very long and the hole quickly closes up again. This silky material I'm using here has a tendency to pull, and where the thread is pulled it forms lines along the grain, so the less I manipulate the fabric, the better. I'd rather just make the hole once and stretch the knob through immediately than have to go back and stretch the hole multiple times. Some people say that you can just use a punch to cut a hole where the knobs are going to go. I would advise not doing this. Using an awl to stretch a hole and punching a hole, there's a huge difference there. Even if you do happen to sever some threads while stretching a hole, most of them are going to remain intact, but if you punch a hole, all the threads there will be severed, which weakens the fabric, leads to fraying, and can allow the knobs to slip back out of the holes if you're not careful. Take off your normal sewing foot and attach your zipper foot, and move your needle so that you will be sewing on the left side of the foot. You might be asking why I'm sewing with the bulk of the corset on the right side in the throat of the machine as opposed to on the left side where I have free space. This is because I always sew seams of my corset with a fashion fabric facing up, so I can be sure that the seams are neat and straight on the outside. I also sew all my seams from top to bottom, as this greatly reduces the amount of wrinkling and misalignment that can often occur in corset making. Use your left hand to keep the busk snug next to the edge of the panel and sew as close as possible to the right side of the busk. Go slowly and keep your seams straight. Just as with the loop side, you only have to stitch this once because it's not a tension holding seam. So now I'm in the bathroom because I'm going to be using fray block to seal the holes I just made. You can use whatever you want for this part. Fray stop, fray check, even just super glue if you really want to. Just make sure you do a spot test on the fashion fabric before this point because you want to make sure it doesn't leave a stain. So just put a little bit of the fray block around each of the knobs and then wait a bit to allow it to dry. And now it's time to test out the fit of the busk. Make sure it's even and one side isn't higher or lower than the other, preferably it should be all even, and make sure the loops and knobs are both clear of fabric so that they can cleanly clasp. And there we go. So that concludes the tutorial on busk insertion.